There were 5 cars, and if you came of age in the 60s or 70s, you probably already know which ones I'm talking about before I say a word. You didn't need a license to have a favorite. You had the picture on your wall, or folded up in a drawer somewhere, or memorized from a magazine you read so many times the pages went soft, and when one of these things came down your street, you heard it first, that low rumble coming around the corner before you could see it. The kind of sound that made you stop whatever you were doing and just look. These weren't transportation. They were an idea, a whole picture of what your life was going to look like someday. So let's go back through them, one at a time. The Mustang showed up in April of 1964, and dealerships genuinely didn't know what hit them. Ford took something like 22,000 orders in the first day alone. And there are stories of people sitting inside the showroom cars refusing to leave because they were scared someone else would buy it out from under them while they went to get a sandwich. What made it work wasn't just the way it looked. Though the long hood and short deck were something nobody had seen come out of Detroit before, it was the price. A base Mustang in '64 started under $2,400, which meant a guy working a decent job could actually get there if he was serious about it. That wasn't nothing. Most dream cars back then were completely out of reach, and Ford knew exactly what they were doing. The smell of the interior on a hot day, that particular combination of vinyl and carpet and something slightly mechanical underneath it, is the kind of thing that sticks with you. Guys who owned early Mustangs talk about that smell the way other people talk about a song. You catch a whiff of something similar 40 years later, and you're right back in the front seat with the windows down on a Friday night, going nowhere in particular and not caring at all. If you had one in those first couple years, you know what I mean about the clutch. Heavy. Real resistance. You felt like you were actually doing something mechanical when you drove it, which was part of the point. This wasn't a car that drove itself. You had to pay attention. Now the Mustang was a car you could talk yourself into owning. The '63 Stingray was a different kind of dream entirely. Split rear window, hidden headlights, those aggressive haunches over the rear wheels. It sat in a parking lot like it was already doing something. Most teenagers who had that car on their wall weren't thinking about next year. They were thinking about someday, which is a completely different relationship to have with a machine. The thing people forget about that car is how loud it was inside. The small block made enough noise that you and your passenger were basically shouting at each other on the highway. And the exhaust came in through the floor on long drives. Not enough to be dangerous, but enough that you knew exactly what was underneath you at all times. Some guys loved that. The feeling of being connected to the engine in a way that modern cars simply don't allow. Car magazines put that body style on the cover more times than I can count, and there's a reason for it. GM's designers got something right with those lines that they spent the next decade trying to get back to. Guys in their 70s still argue about whether anything that came after it matched it. Most of them land on no. By '69, the whole conversation had shifted. The Charger came in with that long, fastback roofline and those hidden headlights, and it looked genuinely menacing, sitting still, like something that had been designed to make the car in front of it nervous. Dodge wasn't interested in subtle at that point, and it showed in the body lines. A lot of fathers told their kids the Charger was too much car, which, depending on the engine, wasn't wrong. The 440 Magnum had enough torque to get you into real trouble if you weren't paying attention, and the RT with the 426 Hemi was a different animal altogether. But fathers saying it was too dangerous had roughly the opposite effect on most 17-year-olds, which Dodge probably understood. Then Bullitt came out, and that black Charger spent 10 minutes on screen chasing a fastback through San Francisco. The whole thing was essentially an advertisement that cost Warner Brothers money instead of Dodge. Guys who saw that movie in the theater came out wanting the Charger as much as they wanted the Mustang, maybe more, because the Charger was the one that felt genuinely dangerous in that chase. And danger has always been interesting to young men. The '70 Barracuda never got the same magazine real estate as the Mustang or the Charger, and that's still a mild injustice in my opinion. The E-body platform they put that car on was wider and lower than anything else in the segment, and the proportions were just right. Short deck, big rear haunches, that aggressive front end with the wide grille. It looked like it was in a bad mood. The teenagers who were into it tended to be a specific type. The ones who'd done the reading, who knew the difference between the 340 and the 383. and could tell you why the Cuda with the 426 Hemi was arguably the quickest thing you could buy off a lot in 1970 if you had the money and the nerve to manage it. That knowledge felt like belonging to something that the Mustang crowd hadn't found yet. Those cars are worth a serious amount of money now. A documented numbers matching Hemi Cuda in decent shape sells for more than most houses in most American cities. And the guys who almost bought one back then, who had the cash, who drove one, who walked away for whatever reason, some of them still bring it up. Not with bitterness exactly, more like a very specific kind of wonder at how things turn out. And then there was the GT500. Carl Shelby took a Mustang Fastback, dropped in a 428 Police Interceptor, put his name on the fender, and created something that didn't really belong in the same conversation as the base car anymore. The suspension was reworked, the brakes were better, and the exhaust note from those side pipes was something that stopped conversations when it went past. Inside, it smelled like rubber and hot metal on a warm day, which sounds like a complaint, but wasn't. The steering was heavy and direct, and the 4-barrel carburetor opening up under hard acceleration made a sound that was less like an engine and more like something with an opinion. You had to drive that car with intention. It didn't forgive casual inputs the way a street Mustang might. Most teenagers who wanted one never got one. The price was significantly above the base Mustang, and Shelby was building them in limited numbers out of a facility in California. So availability was spotty depending on where you lived. But the wanting was serious and specific in the way that only car guys understand. You knew the color you'd order. You knew whether you'd keep the side stripes. You had opinions about the wheels. That's a different level of dreaming than just liking how something looks on a poster. Those 5 cars came out of a period when American manufacturers were genuinely competing for the attention of young people. And they were doing it with sheet metal and horsepower instead of features and apps. There's something to that. A car that you had to physically manage, that pushed back against you a little, that made noise and heat and smell. It created a relationship that a lot of guys never really got over. So which one was yours? Not the one you ended up with, the one you had in your head back then. The one on the wall, drop it below? I'm curious what people say.